Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate.
We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Text 1, or Chapter 1, Text 17. Abhyasan Manasa Shudham Trivrid Brahmaksharam Param Mano Yacheg Jita Shvaso Brahma Bijam Avishmaran Abhyasan Manasa Shudham Trivrid Brahmaksharam Param Mano Yachegjita Shaso Brahma Bijam Avishmaran Abhyasan Manasa Shudham Trivrid Brahmaksharam Param Mano Yachegjita Shvaso Brahma Bijam Avishmaran Abhyasan Manasa Shudham Trivrid Brahmaksharam Param Mano Yachegjita Shvaso Brahma Bijam Avismaran
Abhyasan Manasa Shudham
Abhyasan Manasa Shudham
Trivrid Brahmaksharam Param Mano Yachejjita Shvaso Brahma Bijam
Avismaran
Abhyasan Manasa Shudham Trivrid Brahmaksharam Param Mano Yachejjita Shvaso Brahma Bijam Avismaran
Abhyasan Manasa Shudham Trivrid Brahmaksharam Param Mano Yachejjita Shvaso Brahma Bijam Avismaran
Abhyasan Manasa Shudham Trivrid Brahmaksharam Param Mano Yachejjita Shvaso Brahma Bijam Avismaran
Abhyasan Manasa Shudham Brahmaksharam Param Mano Yachejjita Shvaso
Manoyakchit
Brahma Bijam Avishmaran.
Abhyase manasya shudham
Abhyasan manasashudam
Ivrit brahmaksharam param
Divid Brahmaksharam Param
Mano yached jitasvaso
Manoyakchit Jitasvas
Brahma bijam avishmaran
Rama Bijam Avismaran
Abhyasen Manasa Shudham.
Abhyasan manasashudam
Vivrit Brahmaksharam Param.
Divid Brahmaksharam Param
Mano Yachet Jita Swaso.
Manoyakchit Jitasvaso
Brahma Bijam Avismaran.
Rama Bijam Avishmaran. Abhyasat. One should practice manasa by the mind, shudham sacred, trivrit composed of the three, Brahma aksharam transcendental letters, param the supreme, manaha mind, yachet get under control, jita shvasaha by regulating the breathing air, Brahma absolute, bijam seed, avismaran without being forgotten. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. After sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the three transcendental letters A-U-M, and by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental seed. Purport. Omkara, or the pranava, is the seed of transcendental realization, and it is composed of the three transcendental letters, A-U-M. By its chanting by the mind, in conjunction with the breathing process, which is a transcendental but mechanical way of getting into trance, as devised by the experience of great mystics, one is able to bring the mind, which is materially absorbed, under control. This is the way of changing the habit of the mind. The mind is not to be killed. Mind or desire cannot be stopped. But to develop a desire to function for spiritual realization, the quality of engagement by the mind has to be changed. The mind is the pivot of the active sense organs, and as such, if the quality of thinking, feeling, and willing is changed, naturally the quality of actions by the instrumental senses will also change. Omkara is the seed of all transcendental sound, and it is only the transcendental sound which can bring about the desired change of the mind and senses. Even a mentally deranged man can be cured by treatment of transcendental sound. In Bhagavad Gita, the pranava, Omkara, has been accepted as the direct, literal representation of the Supreme Absolute Truth. One who is not able to chant directly the holy name of the Lord, as recommended above, can easily chant the pranava Omkara. This Omkara is a note of address, such as, O my Lord, just as Om Hari Om means, O my Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we have explained before, the Lord's holy name is identical with the Lord Himself. So also is Omkara. But persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form or name of the Lord on account of their imperfect senses, in other words, the neophytes, are trained to the practice of self-realization by this mechanical process of regulating the breathing function and simultaneously repeating the pranava, Omkara, within the mind. As we have several times expressed, since the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, etc., of the personality of Godhead are impossible to understand with the present material senses, it is necessary that through the mind, the center of sensual activities, such transcendental realization be set into motion. The devotees directly fix their mind on the person of the Absolute Truth, but one who is unable to accommodate such personal features of the Absolute is disciplined in impersonality, is disciplined in impersonality to train the mind to make further progress. Om Agyana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Maharaj, would you like to speak on this?
The impersonal Om is recommended as a beginning to the transcendence, just as the process here of breathing exercises beginning with asan and the process of yam, niyam, asan, and controlling the air. This is also a mechanical process for getting into trance. And the mystics who know the process, who have come to that stage, they have given a way to help others who are not on that path, who are ordinary people, how they can mechanically try to make some progress for controlling. The idea of yoga is to control the mind. And then the mind will control the senses. If the mind is not controlled, then the senses are not controlled, and uncontrolled mind, uncontrolled senses brings danger. Because without controlling the senses and the mind, one can't make any progress on spiritual path. But the direct personal names, Hare Krishna, is preferable because one doesn't have to go through a mechanical process. The mechanical process is automatically included in the direct bhakti path. Yam niyam, rules and regulations, don't do this, do that. Just like brahmacharya, tapasa brahmacharya jena, samena cha, damena cha. These are principles of that the new student is taught, the neophyte. As we see in the Gurukula, the Guru would teach these things. But in Bhakti Yoga, if one takes up chanting of the names of the Lord directly, he naturally gives up the unnecessary activities of the senses, or it's like brahmacharya. As soon as someone comes to the temple, they're engaged as brahmachari, man or woman, they also following celibacy. If they stay with the devotees, they're expected to do that naturally. And they happily do it because they understand why. That to engage the senses in sense gratification is misuse of the senses and the mind. And it will lead one to entanglement in further reactions, bondage. That's why Krishna consciousness is so effective, because it has answers. People want to know why they should practice things. What happens if I do this? What happens if I don't do this? Any question can be asked, and the answers are given very easily. There's a reason why brahmacharya is important to practice. You want to make your mind steady, you want to become free from sinful activity. If you don't become free from sinful reactions, and if you create more sinful reactions, how will you get free from them? Krishna promises that if someone surrenders to him, that he'll immediately be accepted and freed from all the sinful reactions of the past. There's no amount of sins he can't forgive. But if you see someone just doing it again and again, he's not serious about getting free from these sinful activities, then it doesn't work. And he changes it. He says, that's not what I meant. I meant surrender not just for 5 minutes. If someone surrenders to Krishna, then he doesn't have his karma is immediately taken. He's forgiven for that. But not to do it again. And it's funny, a simple thing like that, you would think would be obvious to anyone who's on this religious, spiritual path. But yet there's so many people who do just that. They confess their sins and they do the same thing again. The example of the animal the elephant takes bath, and then afterwards he throws dust all over it. So what's the use in taking bath? You're going to put dust all over it. So Bhakti Yoga includes all the aspects of the more elementary practices. Therefore, the devotees don't have to sit and try to calm themselves by being quiet and chanting Om or breathing in a certain way. They don't have to do the pressing of the nose. Although it works to help calm the mind for someone who doesn't know anything else, but chanting Hare Krishna does that too, better and higher. Then the mind not only becomes calm, but it becomes absorbed in the proper thing. Thinking, feeling, and willing are the activities of the mind. We can't stop thinking. We can't stop feeling. And we can't stop willing, desiring to do things. Can't be stopped. But they can be redirected. In one sense, the yoga process, this mechanical process, kind of tries to stop the mind from all of its nonsense. But the letters Om are there as a way for them to begin. And there's some people, they prefer to chant Om than Hare Krishna. That means they have some impersonal prejudice. Okay, let them chant Om. That's what Prabhupada always says. You say, well, I don't believe in Krishna, I don't want to chant personally. Okay, chant Om. They say they like to chant Om. That's good. And then by chanting Om, Krishna says, Pranava Sarva Vedeshu, in all the Vedic literatures, I am the sound of Om. I am the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. So it's also Krishna. And just as Prabhupada also gave an explanation on I am the taste of water, Rasoham Apsukonteya, I am the taste of water. And even if someone's addicted to drinking wine, okay, take that taste of wine, Krishna says, I am that taste. So if he thinks like that before I drink my wine, I think, Krishna just tastes this wine. And he drinks. Someday he'll become a great devotee. If every time he thinks, before he drinks this, that this is Krishna says he's the taste of this wine, someday he'll become. But we don't have so much time. This lifetime goes by very quickly. And these processes take a long time. This process of sitting in breath restraint, and even to find a place where you can, a sacred place. Where will you find a sacred place that's peaceful and you won't get ejected or someone will come, or it's too cold or it's too hot, or sacred place. That's the beginning. Not in a fashionable apartment in the city. That's not what's meant by a sacred place. Unless the deity of Krishna is there, then it is a sacred place. So, should we teach people this type of yoga? Prabhupada didn't think it was necessary to do this because the process of chanting is so much easier still. Can't get any easier than chanting. Anyone can chant Hare Krishna. And they can play the instruments and they engage their senses and their mind very easily. So it's the perfect yoga process. And we see it's working. All over the world, millions of people are taking this chanting and prasadam and a little philosophy. A little bit of this philosophy goes a long way. Because what you learn in the first few days of being in association with devotees is more than all the Western philosophers and religious teachings have given so far around the world. So it's amazing. This teaching process in such a short time can bring one to a high level. And that's what was amazing to the people of India. When they saw Westerners come and they weren't doing the things they did before, and they wondered, how is this possible? That's the beauty of Krishna consciousness, that it can take one from the lowest level and put him in a very transcendental state, even above Brahmins. This was shocking to them because they have a policy that persons who are not born in that particular type of religion, they can't go to temples and things. What to speak of do the puja or handle the deity or act as a priest or give lectures. These things aren't allowed. But then they saw that these people they're changed. They're no longer addicted to those activities of the mlechas, of the yavanas. So, according to the Vedas, birth, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam, that according to the birth and activities, is one designated as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. Or, yes, it's not just according to birth, it's according to one's activities. If he's engaged in the work of a Kshatriya, then even if he's not born in a Kshatriya family, Mahabharata deals with this with Karna. So evidently there was some prejudice in those days. But you may say, well, did Krishna know? Did he allow that to happen, that Karna would not be allowed to act as a Kshatriya? He was obviously a Kshatriya. His father was the head of the Kshatriyas. The whole Surya Vamsa comes from his father, sun god. But these things are misunderstood. As soon as there's a break in the understanding, then Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita and reestablishes the principles of religion. So that's what's happened now. Krishna consciousness has come around the world. It's practically everywhere. And everyone has a chance to be reinstated in their transcendental position. And they're not restricted from performing the services of some particular work. They can do that, and they can chant Hare Krishna and take prasadam and make their lives sinless, and then they can achieve perfection in this life, short life. We don't have a lot of time, so we don't want to waste time. We could be doing something more important, doing something less important. So that's one of the aspects or some of the aspects given in this verse.
Thank you, Maharaj. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Yes, Magadari Prabhu.
I had a question. Sometimes we're mixing our our personal process, like chanting Hare Krishna, and we're kind of adding also like stretching, or we also do yoga, or we also think about the breath and things like that. What does this do for our bhakti process? And
well, Prabhupada describes it as a more neophyte stage. If one is holding on to these attachments, to karma, or jnana, or yoga. So these would be considered holding on to some aspects of the yoga process. Or if one holds on to some conceptions of the jnana process, the impersonal speculation. That's not pure. Was that a verse by Rupa Goswami? Thank you. Anya bilashta shunyam jnana karma janavitam anakuyena krishnena sevanam bhakti. Pure devotional service without any tinge of karma, jnana, or yoga. That's pure devotional service. So if one can come to the pure devotional platform, that's best. If not, then if they continue to practice bhakti, then they'll gradually become elevated and they will realize that it's all inclusive.
Jai Keshava Prabhu, you had a question or a comment?
In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born in the modes of passion and later transformed into wrath and is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. And then we hear in chapter 2 that while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment to them, and from attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. So how do we get rid of this lust in the heart for things that are not not beneficial? You know, we're impelled to do certain things based on our past conditioning. And it's kind of a question related to doing things and then asking for atonement for doing those things. But for some reason we can't stop. How do we stop that then, if it's just we're like enforced, you know, to do them?
Cheto darpana marjanam. So this chanting process, it's cleansing the heart, which is full of so many things, not just lust, but also anger, greed, so many unwanted things. But just by this process of chanting Hare Krishna, all of these things are cleared away, and it's without the need of any other supplementary process. Just by taking to chanting the holy name, one can achieve all perfection in this lifetime, which is ultimately what we're aiming for. That's the mood that we're always seeing Srila Prabhupada bringing, is that why not just achieve perfection fully in this lifetime and go back to Godhead? Because it's Kali Yuga. Things are extremely difficult in Kali Yuga, but the good thing is that it's the easiest time to fully take shelter of this topmost process and the most simple process of just chanting the Lord's holy name. So we can fully take it up and achieve perfection in this one lifetime, if we strictly follow the process and the principles within it. Bhakti Fred, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. What does untinged bhakti look like? No, practically, because, I haven't been with him his whole life. I'm not with him every second. So how could you explain to someone like me what untinged bhakti yoga looks like?
Untinged bhakti means it's all given in Srila Prabhupada's books, even in the really small ones, like Nectar of Instruction. So that only takes a few days to read, and we'll see it all lined out there, like accepting anything favorable for devotional service and rejecting anything unfavorable. So the whole focus is just the serving Krishna. That means the person's whole life and soul is just their service to Krishna. So they're accepting what's favorable for that and rejecting what's unfavorable for that. And it's untinged with any kind of other motivation. It's not like my service and my service to something other than Krishna. It's not like my service to Krishna, but then I'll also cut in some time for this other idea this other personal motivation that I have. But it's just the person is fully focused on how can they please Krishna, and they know how they can please him by what's given in scriptures and what is given to them by their spiritual master and confirmed by sadhus or saintly persons. Is that sufficient?
Well, we just heard how, if we're stretching or doing certain things throughout the day, there actually are attachments that we've been conditioned to be attached to. But what if we think those things are favorable?
We might. Sorry.
Because what if we're artificially renouncing, like I'm not devoid of pain, so I personally stretch,
Yeah, that's why we need Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, because you're saying if we think something's favorable, so that's good. We're saying, okay, how can I do my service? Well, this thing here might be favorable. This thing there might be unfavorable. So we've thought that, so now we need to confirm it. There's nothing that's just done whimsically in Vedic culture. Everything is done under the sanction of authorities, and it's all given in scriptures how to do everything. in our Western society, it's different because there's zero culture. So it's like there's no specific way of doing anything, and everything's whimsical. It's like the exact opposite. But in Vedic culture, everything is very specific. So just like that, we get the idea, and now we can go and confirm it with sadhus or our authorities, or the people who are engaging us in devotional service. See, I think this thing might be favorable for my service, and my plan on how to do it is like this, and I think it'll help in this way. What do you think? And then they might say, oh yeah, that's a perfect plan. Or they might say, it's a good idea, but just do it like this. They might just adjust something, and they'll show us how it can nicely fit into our service without, they'll cut off the pitfalls in the plan that we might have, or the idea that we have. Is that okay?
Yes.
Try. Thank you. Are there any? Yes, Magadari Prabhu?
Sometimes we do programs and we ask participants to chant Om.
Do we?
Sometimes we do that. And I'm just wondering about that.
I've never seen us do that. I don't know, because I've never seen it. But like Maharaj is saying, it's a lower prince. I mean, it's absolute because it's representing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But like it says in the end of the purport, the devotees directly fix their mind on the person of the absolute truth. So there we see the devotees and they're dancing the Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then Prabhupada says, but one who is unable to accommodate such personal features of the absolute is disciplined in impersonality to train the mind to make further progress. So one who's unable to, not ready yet to take up the whole personal form of the Lord, they try for this impersonal process. But what does Krishna say about the impersonal process of self-realization? Yeah. I know you have it remembered. Yeah, it's very difficult. So it's not necessary and it's very difficult. So why not just jump right into chanting Hare Krishna and then engaging in the personal service of the personal form of the Supreme Person, Krishna? Yes. Sorry.
Sometimes I'm feeling a little bit nervous. Like I want to give somebody a book and I pass them like the free pamphlet. What? Versus like giving them the big stack or the Bhagavad Gita. Or sometimes like I go and I preach to somebody and I'm speaking to them and I start out with something like more vague, like way more vague, like, yeah, this is like cool vibes, and, spiritual. So why, and then also some persons come to this establishment and they criticize that all we do is talk about Krishna and we don't talk about anything else and we only follow what Prabhupada has asked us to do. And we don't tolerate any other conversations. So, could you talk about these things?
Yeah, I've been thinking actually about what you've said about this Reservoir of Pleasure Krishna pamphlet before. It's been coming up in my mind the last few days. And I'm actually so excited to distribute many of these Reservoir of Pleasure pamphlets right now because there's actually so much in there. And it's just like a little paper thing, but if someone actually opens it and reads it, they can get everything they need to know to make their life perfect in this little free, lightweight, foldable piece of paper. So why, if they actually open it, why would they want to, discard it or anything? They probably really like it and want to put it up somewhere, but it's actually really nice. So that was just one thing that I was thinking about it. But you were saying like if someone, it's got a big picture of Krishna on it and he's just right there in your face And so if someone might have some impersonal views, it might be odd to them. Is that kind of part of it?
The topic that I'm talking about now is like, it seems like here at the temple, like we don't make any compromises for giving the fullest, highest thing. And I'm just revealing in my mind that sometimes I feel like I want to give less than the full thing. And I'm just wondering about that.
There was one verse we read maybe 2 months ago where it's talking about the age of Kali, and it said that doubt had arisen in this devotee's mind to like speak. I'm sorry, I can't remember specifically, but doubt had arisen to speak about Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead due to the age of Kali. So this doubt is there in the age of Kali to actually give the real thing, which is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're all always his servants, and so we should just engage in his service. But also at the same time, different people, if someone's not receptive, it doesn't matter what we tell them, they won't hear, so we can figure out exactly how to administer the right amount of medicine to the right person. But if someone's completely unreceptive, then they might not be able to take any of it. So then we can just find the person who is and give them the full dose of Krishna consciousness, answer all of their questions, explain more and more about the philosophy. So that is one principle, is speaking the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and the deeper subjects of Krishna consciousness to those people who are ready to hear them or willing to hear them also. And just as an example, like in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya, he would speak, or for the general public, they would just do big kirtans, ecstatic kirtans. But as far as the deeper topics of Krishna consciousness, such as Krishna's pastimes, that was only spoken with a select few group of devotees who were close to him. It wasn't like for the general public. Is that okay? Okay. I think one small one, yeah, okay.
Haribol, I was just going to tell a short story about a devotee I met in Denver. He was living in Florida and was going to the university at Gainesville. Is that University of Florida? I can't remember. They have Krishna lunch there.
Yeah, it's Gainesville.
So he calculated that he took over 1,000 plates of prasadam before he was able to inquire about Krishna. So, we meet people where they're at, right? But he was at the ashram there. He was actually going to go and spend time in Vrindavan. So, we don't know how this little thing we're doing on a regular basis, even though we're not telling someone Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the time. We're giving them prasadam, and so they're slowly changing.
Thank you. That's a really nice point. Prasadam distribution ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Transcendental book distribution ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.